In a previous video, I showed you how to prepare a TLC chamber with a piece of filter paper in it and your developing solvent mixture of choice. So now we are looking at how to spot and run a TLC plate. So a TLC plate is simply a piece of plastic with a thin layer of silica gel on it. So this is going to be your chromatographic medium. What you're going to do is spot a tiny bit of your sample at the bottom of the plate, put it in the TLC chamber, and the solvent will climb up by capillarity. By climbing up, it will drag your spots up the plate according to their polarity. Then you can take it out of the chamber and you can look, and the distance at which the spots traveled is characteristic of the polarity of your compound. First of all, let's see how you prepare your TLC samples. You need a very tiny amount, a couple of drops at the most. And if you have a pure compound, being it a solid or a liquid, you always need to dilute it. You want to dilute it with a very volatile solvent, and diethyl ether is usually a very good choice. So normally you take a very small amount of your solid compound in a clean epitube, and you want to dilute it with a couple of drops of diethyl. You can flick the tube in order to have the sample dissolve. Analogously, if your sample is a liquid, you want to use a drop of your pure sample and dilute it with your spotting solvent, diethyl ether again in this case. So I'm adding like 5 or 6 drops of diethyl ether per drop of pure compound. You flick the tubes to mix, and you want to make sure you label your epitube. Now that you have your sample ready, you want to spot it on the TLC plate. It is very important that you don't scratch the silica gel layer on the TLC plate. If that happens, you should throw the plate away and restart from the beginning, from scratch. Normally, I draw the starting point at the bottom of the silica gel plate with a pencil. And I normally just put small dots. You want to stay away from the edge, and the height of the dots doesn't matter as long as they are higher than the level of the solvent in your TLC chamber. So you want to pick up a small amount of your sample with the capillary tube. And spot your sample on the dot that you just draw. It's very important that you keep the capillary perpendicular to the surface of the plate, and you tap very lightly and very quickly so the spot is as small as possible. Maybe you need to spot a couple of times. And then you want to spot your other sample. Now that you have your samples spotted on the TLC plate, you can develop the plate. That is, you put it in your TLC chamber and you let the developing solvent raise on the plate. You normally use a pair of tweezers to do that. And as you see, the solvent is climbing up by capillarity on the silica gel plate. It will take a few minutes for the solvent to reach the top of the plate. When your solvent front has reached almost the top of the plate, but not quite, you want to take it out and very quickly mark the solvent front with a pencil. The easiest way to visualize your plate, if your compounds are UV active, that is, they absorb UV light, is by using a short-wave UV light. So if you do that, your plate will appear fluorescent green, and the spots will appear as dark spots on the fluorescent green background.